Hey everyone, this is Brandon Sugiyama from Jayo, and in today's video, I thought we'd do a brief overview of International Wushu competition rules for Taolu. The document that you can follow along with is this one right here. It's the Wushu Taolu competition rules and judging methods. This was published by the International Wushu Federation in 2019, and this is an update to the previous version of the rules, which were published in 2005. And we'll be focusing on judging methods, which is found in the second half of this document, and we'll be referencing several sets of tables that begin on page 33. Also, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and share, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook. So first, when we're talking about rules for international Taolu competition, it's important to discuss there are three different groups of judges. There's Group A, B, and C. And each of those groups of judges are evaluating different elements of the competitor's performance. So Group A judges are evaluating quality of movements, and this is worth 5 points out of a total of 10. The Group B judges are evaluating overall performance. That is worth 3 points for events with degree of difficulty and 5 points for events without degree of difficulty. And then finally, the Group C judges are evaluating degree of difficulty, and that is worth a maximum of 2 points. There's also a forms examiner and a head judge. So let's start with Group A, quality of movements. Once again, it's worth a maximum of 5 points, and it's deduction based. And that means that a competitor will start with 5 points at the beginning of performance, and as they perform, if judges see errors, then they will deduct from those 5 points. Most deductions are worth 0.1, and there are also deductions for 0.2 and 0.3, but most are worth 0.1. And quality of movements is mostly objective, and that means that there's a finite list of deduction codes, and each of those codes has a finite list of deduction content, and I'll explain more about what that means in just a second. We'll be referencing a set of tables that are found on pages 33 to 43. Okay, so let's take a quick look at one of those tables. This is on page 33 of the rulebook, and we'll zoom in. This is for Changchun, Jianshu, Daoshu, Jiangshu, and Gunshu, long fist, straight sword, broadsword, spear, and staff. So on the left, we have the categories. It has a list of the technique names in Pinyin Chinese as well as in English. We have the column for deduction content, and on the right, we have the code numbers. So for example, a code 01 is for fist, and the code 1 can be applied if one of these two things happen. For a fist, that's if the face of the fist is uneven, or if the thumb is not pressing on the second segment of the middle finger. So there are 6 sets of tables for quality of movements. Those are for Changchun, Daoshu, Jianshu, Gunshu, and Qiangshu. 1 for Nanchuan, Nandao, and Nangun. 1 for Tai Chi Chuan and Tai Chi Jian. 1 for Duilian, or sparring sets. 1 for GT, which is group sets, and another table for other errors. So for those first 5 sets of tables, those deduction codes and criteria only apply for those styles. The 6th set of tables for other errors, those codes can apply to any of those events. So for example, here's the table for other errors. We have loss of balance, weapons and apparel, as well as other deductions. So, for example, a code 70 is for a loss of balance, and this is just if the competitor, the upper body sways, or if the base foot or base feet shuffle or skip. In either one of those cases, a code 70 would be applied, and the deduction is for 0.1 points. It's also important to note that for Group A judging, deductions can only be made for techniques that are on this list, and they can only deduct based on the criteria on this list. So if a competitor is performing a technique or a stance that's not found on the list, the Group A judges cannot deduct. At the same time, if a competitor is performing a technique that is on that list, but makes an error that is not on the deduction criteria, Group A judges cannot deduct. And moving on, to Group B. Group B judges evaluate overall performance. Overall performance is worth a maximum of 3 points for events with degree of difficulty and is worth a maximum of 5 points for events without degree of difficulty. Examples for events with degree of difficulty would be optional Changquan, optional Nanquan, optional Taichi Chuan. Examples of events without degree of difficulty would be something like Shuangdao or Shuangjian, Baguazang or Xingyi Chuan. Also, some of the events at the World Junior Wushu Championships with the Group C elementary forms as well as the Group B first compulsory forms. Group B scores are based on ranges. Those ranges are defined by 3 levels, superior, average, and inferior, which are then separated up into 9 degrees, and each of those degrees is assigned a score range. So on page 44, this is the table for evaluation of overall performance. This is for events with degree of difficulty. So on the left, you can see the 3 levels, superior, average, and inferior. Each of those is separated up into 3 degrees, and each of those degrees has a score range. So for example, superior, degree 3, has a score range of 2.7 to 2.51. On the right, we have the scoring standard. The Group B judges are looking to make sure that the techniques are correct, exact methods are being used, sufficient strength, smooth and effective issuance of force, accurate focus of force, coordination between the eyes and the hands, body work and footwork, distinct rhythm, and correct stylistic expression. Overall performance scores are subjective, and that means that the criteria is up to the individual judges to interpret, and the scores are relative to the performances of other competitors in the same event. And moving on to the third group of judges, Group C, which evaluate the degree of difficulty, also known as Nandu. Degree of difficulty is worth a maximum of 2 points, 1.4 points for difficulty techniques, and 0.6 points for difficulty connections. The maximum point value is based on the list of movements that are submitted by the competitor before the event. This is also referred to as the Nandu sheet. As the competitor is performing, the Group C judges assess whether or not their difficulty techniques and connections meet the requirements. If they do, points are awarded, and if they don't, points are not awarded. The tables for degree of difficulty can be found beginning on page 46 of the rulebook. Now there are 3 sets of 3 tables for degree of difficulty. 3 sets, one for Changquan, Daoshu, Jianshu, Gunshu, and Xiangshu. That's long fist, broadsword, straight sword, staff, and spear. 1 set for Nanquan, Nandao and Nangun, southern fist, southern broadsword, and southern staff. And the 3rd set for Taichi Chuan and Taichi Jian. Each set of tables has 3 tables. The first is for degree of difficulty content, grades, values, and codes. The second is for degree of difficulty connections, content, grades, values, and codes. And the third are for non-conformity specifications. And we'll look at each one of those now. Okay, here we are on page 46 of the rulebook. And this is a table for degree of difficulty content, grades, values, and codes. On the left side, we have a column showing the category of the movements. The next are the different grades of difficulty movements. The A grade, which is worth 0.2 points, B grade, which are worth 0.3, and C grade, which are worth 0.4. So each movement or group of movements has a unique code. Moving on to page 49, this is a table showing the degree of difficulty connections, content, grades, values, and codes. The previous table was for difficulty techniques. This is for difficulty connections. Again, we see that there are several columns, each with a different grade and point value. The first is A grade, worth 0.1 points, B grade, worth 0.15 points, C, and D grade. So each combination of a difficulty technique and difficulty connection has a unique code. For instance, this is a Tenkong Feijiao, a jumping front slap kick into Zuopan, which is a cross-legged sitting. The code for the Tenkong Feijiao is a 312A, and the code for the Zuopan is a +6. The point value for this connection is 0.1 points. The next table we're looking at is on page 53. This is degree of difficulty, categories, content, and execution nonconformity standards. On the left side, we can see that we're looking at degree of difficulty techniques. The second column is for category of techniques. The third column is for content. These are the individual techniques and connections. And the fourth column is for nonconformity criteria. So let's say you're a competitor who is preparing for a big competition and you're choreographing a Changchun form. And let's say you're planning to do a Tenkong Feijiao into a Zuopan. That's a jumping front slap kick into a cross-legged sitting. What would the steps be for you to find out the codes, point values, and the nonconformity criteria for that combination? First, we would go back to this table on page 46, and we would find the Tenkong Feijiao here. The code is a 312A. The grade is A with a point value of 0.2. Next, we would go to page 49, and we would find the Tenkong Feijiao plus Zuopan here. That code is a 312A plus 6. That connection for the Zuopan is an A grade and it's worth 0.1 points. So now you know that the Tenkong Feijiao is worth 0.2 points. Connecting it with a Zuopan is worth 0.1 points for a total of 0.3 points. But then how would you know if the way you perform it meets the criteria to get those 0.3 points? You would look in two places. First, you would find the Tenkong Feijiao on the list for degree of difficulty nonconformity standards. In the right column, we see that there are 3 nonconformity criteria. That means if any one of these 3 things happens during the execution of the Tenkong Feijiao, no points will be awarded. If there are more than 4 steps running into the jump kick, if the kick is not completed in the air, and if the foot is slapped lower than horizontal level, no points will be awarded. What about for the Zuopan? Okay, so here we are on page 55, and we see the nonconformity criteria for the Tenkong Feijiao with the Zuopan connection here. And there are 4 nonconformity criteria. The first is that if there's an obvious pause before forming the Zuopan, so let's say that you executed the Tenkong Feijiao, landed on 2 feet, paused, and then formed the Zuopan, there would be no points for that connection. The second criteria is that if the thighs are not crossed clearly. The third is for use of additional support. That means when forming the Zuopan, if you touch the ground with one hand, if your leg rolls over and your knee touches, that would be a use of additional support. And then a fall would be defined as 2 points of additional contact. So maybe if both of the hands, or if your weight shifted so far to the side that you were leaning on your shoulders or the side of your body, that would be considered a fall. And in any of those cases, no points would be awarded for that connection. It should also be noted that a difficulty connection, such as the Zuopan, points cannot be awarded for that unless the preceding difficulty technique is executed correctly. So in this case, if the Tenkong Feijiao was executed with the kick being lower than horizontal and then landed into the Zuopan, even if the Zuopan met the criteria, no points would be awarded for the connection and no points would be awarded for the technique. Okay, and here we are with the final 2 people on the judging panel. We have the forms examiner who deducts for choreography errors and the head judge who deducts for time deductions. Let's talk about the forms examiner. So in all optional routines, events with degree of difficulty, there are content requirements. And here we're looking at the list. This is on page 16. And these are the required movements for Changchun. So we have 3 hand techniques that includes fist, palm, and hook. 3 techniques employing a fist, 2 techniques employing a palm, 1 offensive elbow technique, so an elbow strike, the 5 stances comprising of gongbu, mabu, pubu, shubu, and xiebu, and 3 leg techniques comprising of leg swinging techniques and methods with the leg straight, flexion to extension, and sweep. So a leg straight, an example would be a front stretch kick or a side stretch kick, outside crescent kick. Flexion to extension would be a front snap kick, a heel kick or a side kick, and a sweep would be a front sweep or a back sweep. Hou Sao Tui and a Qian Sao Tui. The final one is for an extended leg bounce. That's a single leg bounce that's held for at least 2 seconds in a motionless state. So what would happen if your form was missing one of these required moves? The forms examiner would apply a code 80. So code 80 is for each missing compulsory or mandatory technique in optional routines. Notice there are also other deduction criteria that have to do with compulsory routines. So an example would be at the World Junior Wushu Championships, the Group C and Group B competitors would compete with the compulsory elementary forms and the first international compulsory forms. So in those cases, a code 80 could be applied for missing or adding a technique in that compulsory routine. There is a code 81 deduction for missing or adding a step, missing a vocalization. A code 84 is a deduction for changing the direction more than 45 degrees from the standard compulsory form for Changchuan and Nanchuan type events, and in Tai Chi and Tai Chi Jian, if the direction is exceeding 90 degrees, then there is a deduction for that as well. And before I finish, I wanted to talk about 2 other references and resources that you might find helpful. The first is this PDF that I put together that has all of the tables and the codes that we discussed in this video. So we have the A codes for Changchuan, Nanchuan, and Tai Chi Chuan, weapons and other, have the B tables for events with and without degree of difficulty, as well as all of the codes and non-conformity criteria for C movements in Changchuan, Nanchuan, and Tai Chi Chuan. Additionally, there's this. This is the Jiao Wushu Taolu competition rules, which is a web app that you can use on both iOS and Android. And it also has all the codes, all the tables that were discussed in this video, all of the A codes, all of the B tables, and as well all of the C codes. I'll put links to both of those documents below. And that concludes this brief overview of the international rules for Wushu competition from this document, the Wushu Taolu competition rules and judging methods from 2019, published by the International Wushu Federation. Again, if you like this video, give it a like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook. I'll be doing more videos in the future where I go in depth on A judging, B judging, and C judging. I'll also be doing a video on the changes between the 2019 rules and the previous version, which were the 2005 rules. This is Brandon Sugiyama from Jiao.com. See you in the next video.